In today's video, we're going to tell you some things you need to know if you want to live on a river or stream in Montana. Alright, so I climbed all the way up this mountain to give you a better view of Montana. So the least you can do is subscribe to our channel. And when you do, don't forget to hit the little bell and you'll be notified every time we make a new video about Montana. So today I'm standing at the point where the North Fork and the Middle Fork of the Flathead River come together. And I wanted to talk to you today about the river access law in Montana. A lot of people don't know about this, and I'm guessing it's different in other states. It's kind of a nice law here in Montana. And if you're planning on buying or living on a river here in Montana, it's something you really need to know about. So the main gist of the stream access law is that the rivers and streams in Montana are public. So even if you own land that goes right to the river, and you can look at this plat map right here, it'll show that the property pins down at the river go to the low water mark of the river. So the mark that really comes into play is the high water mark of the river. You may have property pins or show that there's property pins down at the low mark of the water line, but the stream access law allows people to use the river and use it all the way up to the high water mark. So if you have a piece of property with a cabin on it or land, whatever it may be, people can come and fish on the stream, or they can raft, or just use the stream for their recreation. And even though your property pins go down into the water, people can still use it. So that's one thing you need to know if you're moving from out of state. Again, I'm sure it's different in other states, but when people are fishing or rafting, they are by law in Montana allowed to use it. And they can, even if you own 100,000 acres out in the middle of Montana, and if there's a river running through it, people can come down through your property. They can, if you put a fence across it or any kind of blockage that's man-made, people are allowed to go up above the high water line and portage around the blockage. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It's not private land. If you buy a big ranch, or even if it's a small piece of property on the river, it's not private. People might be in your backyard in the summer. Obviously this time of year you're not going to have a lot of traffic out here, but just keep in mind that it is public, and if you live in Montana, you're allowed to use all the rivers and streams. I will post the link down below, but there's a document that explains all this in way more detail. There's two types of rivers. There's the level 1 rivers, which are the biggest rivers like the Missouri and the Flathead, like here. And it's all listed out, all of the different rivers, the Blackfoot, that are part of this level 1. And they have a little bit different rules where you can actually camp on those rivers if you're doing an overnight trip and recreating on the river. You can actually camp above the high water line as long as you're not within 500 feet of a house or in view of a house or a piece of property. The big thing that they push is you should always check with the homeowner before you start doing this stuff, just so there's no mix-ups. But if you read the stream access law, that is something that you're allowed to do. On the level 2 rivers, which are the smaller rivers, you're not allowed to camp, but you can still use the rivers, and it works to the high water line just like it does on the big rivers. So as you can see here, this is late in the year, obviously, and the water's way down. So we're way down into the riverbed. So actually, the high water line is up in those bushes up there. So if you were to own this piece of property, let's say, you know, people can be standing right where I am, and it's their right to do that. So keep that in mind. And we will go check out a level 2 river, and I can explain the situation on one of those rivers. And like I said, they're the smaller ones. This is one of the bigger rivers in Montana, the Flathead, so let's go check out a smaller river. So here we are at a Class 2 river. I think I was calling them Level 1 and Level 2. It's actually Class 1 and Class 2. So Class 2 is a smaller river. This is the Whitefish River, and as you can see, there's homes right along it, and they have docks. And that's another thing, that there are restrictions on the size of the dock and how far out into the river it can go, so you need to check on that if you're going to purchase something on the river. Also, on a Class 2, like I said earlier about a Class 1, that they allow camping and over, days-long trips on the river. On these smaller rivers, that is not allowed without permission from the owner if you want to camp. But the same rules do apply as far as the high water mark, and you can fish out here, you can raft out here without the permission of the homeowner that you're floating behind their house. You can drop an anchor right behind someone's house and fish. So if you think you're going to buy a private fishing spot on a river, other people are allowed to use it. And one of the things I didn't talk about earlier is you can access these rivers. You can't go through private property to get on the river. You can use the river to go through private property, but you can't go through someone's backyard to get on the river. You can get on a public access or a road crossing or anything like that, but you can't go across private property, obviously, again, unless you ask the owner for their permission. So just remember, on the high water mark and the use of the river, it's all about cooperating and being considerate of the landowners, or if you're a landowner, being considerate of the people using the river. That's how this works. Obviously, if you're using the river, you're not allowed to litter for obvious purposes. And remember the trespassing thing. Once you go over the high water mark, you are trespassing, unless it's a Class 1 river and you're camping out of sight of a house. And again, the main thing, if you have any questions, it's always best to check with the homeowner so you're not causing any problems. Or if you have questions on the high water mark, or determining what you're going to do, just use common sense, and everyone will get along. But again, I will put the link for this full document so you can read all the rules down below. But it is interesting here in Montana with the stream access laws and the rights of people recreating and the rights of the homeowners. So good thing to know. If someone's trying to sell you something that's, and they're telling you it's private, that is not the case. So if you are interested in purchasing land along a river anywhere in Montana, please give us a call. We'd be happy to help out, and I hope you enjoyed this video.
Thank you for watching our video. Please call, text, or email for more information, and don't forget to watch our other videos about Montana.